What's up, y'all? We're gonna go on an adventure today. I'm gonna go check out the old railroad tracks. I have a book that I'm gonna go by that leads me to the map of the old roundhouses. Want to check that out, where the turntable. It's got a better view of all the shops and the repair on cars and things that was down there back in the 1913 to 20s, I think, something like that. So just going to use the book as my guide to find these old buildings and old foundations, and hopefully come across some old dated nails. Sounds like there's a train that's moving very slow right now, and we may end up catching that first thing, but it's going to be a day, that's for sure. Well, I just missed the engine, but the train is still moving by slowly, so we'll catch some of the cars that are going by and go from there with it. But we'll see. Yep, he sure is moving slow. Looks like I'm seeing car haulers at the moment. Now I'm seeing stacks. So these are all stacked cars going by right now. Not a very long one, because there's the last car. Daggone it. That sucks. Yep. Just missed it. And actually, our adventure straight over that way. Somewhere in that area. So we're gonna walk through right here. This woods actually used to be a bunch of rails that went through here as well. See this? This here is right in the middle of the woods. Just a random telephone pole. And those are here. I'm not sure what those were for, but had something to do with air, I'd imagine. There's quite a few of those through here, and we're going to find railroad ties throughout this area of the woods. There's an old one there. There's another telephone pole. There isn't a tag or a date or nothing on it, so it don't look like it's hatefully old, but it's old enough to have all these trees around it. This here at one time obviously must have been an old bridge. I bet throughout this woods back in the day, there's probably every bit of 30 to 40 rails that was side by side all the way through the width of this woods here. Guarantee it. There's an old foundation of some sort here that had a turn wheel. Just a little 4x4 foundation area. Oh, crikey. Things are still a little wet. Couldn't ask for a better morning to do this, actually. It's nice and crisp to start off with, and it gets up to about the mid-50s. Nice and calm. Pile of old railroad ties here. We're near the area of the shops where they worked on the locomotives and train cars. Just keeping an eye open for dated nails. I have my hammer with me today, so if I find one, I'm able to pluck it. See, this here was all a foundation to something here. Somebody's been coming back here stacking old concrete apparently, but I'm going to look on the GPS and screenshot of where exactly I'm at and how close I am to the New York Central building. Wow. Believe it or not, I'm actually right where the roundhouse was at with the turntable. I did not have that planned. I just kind of knew I had to get to that side of the woods, but it was right here. Let's see if we can find any evidence saying it was right over here. So all this stuff here, they covered it with concrete. We gotta go that way, and that's where the turntable was at. These here are old telephone poles. These are the ones that has the dated nails in it. Let me pull one out of my bag. I'll see if I can find one. But the only ones you find the dated nails in on the telephone poles is the ones that look like this, that are all spongy looking. Maybe I can find one and show you. And they're actually easier to find while they're still standing, but I brought my bag of nails with me just to keep all my stuff together here. Let's see if I can find one on the telephone pole. These right here. This is one I found on the telephone pole. They're a lot easier to find when the telephone pole's still standing, because I know where to look and how high it is. When they're just cut down and laid in a stack like that, they're harder to find, but these are the railroad ties that I look for. This was in 1928. I've got 60 of them, I think, was the last I counted. My collection's getting bigger, but I know there's still some to be found. And that's all I gotta tell you about that. Okay, this is the map that I'm kind of going off of right here. We are right in here. Florence Road is that way to us. So looking at it, we're actually right here. We're right in this area somewhere. But this is a pretty cool book that my neighbor let me use that I'm just kind of going off of. Just using these maps that's in here as my guide. See, that's page 51. There's a turntable there. This here is how many rails was on just one part of Bellefontaine. There's stockyards that had railroads all over the place. But there's another one in here I wanted to check out and see if we couldn't find any evidence. This was actually the map I'm looking for here. So this right here is right across from Florence Avenue. There we go, Florence Avenue there. That building's still there. That's New York Central something it says on it. But now I know that there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rails that came into one over on Charles Street, it looks like. But all these rails was right beside it. That's what we're going to check out. There's an old rail here. They covered it with concrete. That right there, I keep zooming in, is the left side, and that's the right side. So heading this way, it was going straight into the roundhouse. So I'm gonna kind of do my best to follow this. Tell them ain't been using a long time. See, and then they just cover it with concrete. So then it just disappears. But I'm gonna follow it and see where it leads us. Well, depending on how accurate my rail guide is on my location, it's saying I'm right in the center of it, and I'm seeing some old foundation here. A wall. They filled all this in. See the wall? Man, I wonder how far down that would have went if this didn't get filled in. There's another old telephone pole. There's an old hinge. Look at that. Old hinges here. Who knows what piece this was to the contraption. A lot of lumber. Thought that was a dated nail at first. I wish I had this property in an excavator, because I'd clean all this out. Paint a better picture of what it looked like. I bet this was old wood to it, because it kind of looks like piece of metal. I guess the only thing I didn't bring with me is my daggone flashlight. You dummy. This here looks like it was mounted to the foundation. So here's old woodwork to it. There's a lot of old lumber around it, but it's saying it should be right over here, right here. that I would be in the foundation of the roundhouse. Some old brick. Look at that. See, there's an old hole right here. The hole goes down quite a ways. Wow, look at this. What is this? Like, oh, it's part of something. This stuff just interests me so much. There's an old pier of some sort. Okay, so over here is another piece of the foundation. This stuff's a little slippery. Another piece of the foundation here. I am in the old roundhouse. 100% sure on that. This foundation just keeps going too. I'm trying to follow this foundation the best I can, but with all this thick brush, it's hard to get through. This right here should be around the center of it, the turntable area. I don't know if I should trust this or not. This stuff is slippery and very brittle, and I got trains playing with me in the background. If I fall, this is not going to feel good because I'm about 4 foot off the ground and I'm not balanced on any side of me. Oh man, what the heck, dude? They just push a bunch of trees in here or what? That sucks. I'm gonna have to hang up for a second here. I gotta get through this mess. Ooh. You know how I can tell this is a roundhouse? Because following that foundation put me right back to where I started. So the center has to be right in here. Gee whiz, that's a freaking workout, man. You got branches pulling on your backpack. Slippery. Dead trees you're walking on and falling through. Stepping over, crawling under. Book bag's getting caught on everything. Oh shoot. Okay. Tight places here. Really tight. Okay. Here's the end of that mess. Let's go to a more open area. So over here is a New York Central building somewhere. We'll go over here and see what we can dig into there. So now we know the roundhouse is filled with debris and trees, but the foundation's still there. And railroad ties still here. See, here's a hole. Take a look over there. You can't see very well, can you? Oh, crikey. It was a little chilly this morning. I did put on some layers, but I knew it was going to be a workout, so I didn't put too many layers on. So, I'm going to go over here to the New York Central building. Check it out. This over here is where the workshops and everything was at. But all this here was, this whole area was all workshops. So we'll be finding foundations and things in here, I'm sure. I really wanted to find New York Central to put myself in a better position of those railroad tracks that went into the building. See, these roots tell me that this is on concrete because they're not going in the ground at all. Excuse me. There's old brick here. Feels like, yep. Underneath about 4 inches of debris. This concrete slab. Is this a foundation? This is a foundation of some sort. That over there was the roundhouse, and that's a foundation that leads to it somewhere way over yonder. Here's a line of brick. I don't know if they were laid there by somebody or just part of the foundation or building. But here's a deep hole area. Kind of drops off deep right there. Over here, this must be a concrete slab we're on here. Yeah, on a concrete slab here, because here's the other side of that foundation. Oh, looky here, old railroad ties. Oh man, that's really cool. Railroad ties under concrete. So this right here was a rail. One of the rails that went to the roundhouse, which is over there, is right under here. And it leads to another foundation. This is the bird's eye view of the railroad ties that are right here. And they're in order. 1, 2, 3. And they keep going, I'm sure. And this right here is a deep pit of some sort that went as far as I can see that way, and then it goes to a foundation here. So we're going to follow the center of this thing. I'm going to stay right in the pit area. See that line of bricks? They filled it in with brick. Man, I'd love to see those railroad ties that's under that concrete. But I bet you there's some nails in them. Okay, so we're following this 6-foot pit. We got railroad ties here and railroad ties here. And they're continuing to this foundation here. Wow. And what I'm seeing is a couple of different holes. There's a hole over there, so I wonder if something came from that hole and there's another rail there, which it looks like there's a dip there, because there's one here. And there's another one. And in front of that is a dip. So this here is concrete. This must be what the rails was on. It's an old foundation of some sort. Man, this foundation goes on and on. And it's actually kind of round too, so. That's the one we walked. Here's its neighbor. Which means there's a dip. Swallows down here, and this tree is actually pushed up on some concrete here. I wonder if it pulled up any railroad ties underneath. No, it didn't. Another dipped area. This one didn't. This was square in the foundation. But this right here is where the foundation stopped. And the roundhouse would have been over there. What's that thing? So that foundation would have went straight on across that way. It tells me there's a pier, so there must have been a doorway here and a doorway here. Here's another foundation. Oh. Not seeing any date or anything on it. Looks like a brake line, a fuel line of some sort. Here's some lettering. USA, proud to be. I can't make out what that says by my eye, but Maybe looking back on the video, I will. See, that line came out of there. So if you pop this thing off, I wonder what's underneath. This piece here, boy, is big, but I bet it bolted to here, which ran straight across to a hole. Man, it's like a giant puzzle piece. You find one thing, you follow it, and it takes you to another thing. Another piece of the foundation. Railroad tie over here. And this here is a deep hole. This side here has some steel pipe to it. Man, I just want to picture what this wall was when it was active. There's another pipe I see next to that tree over there. Okay, I tell you, I'm really enjoying this adventure so far, because I'm finding things that, it's not really a railroad tie, it's old wood to what used to be a building here. Bunch of old wood here. I don't know about you, but I've been itching to see what this building here is all about. Seeing what's on the other side of that wall. Oh, it's a shame. Uh-oh, there's a car. There's another car. And a couple of other cars. Wow. Ooh. It's got some cast iron in the middle of it. Some old stairs. Concrete steps. Still some lumber standing on this one. Alright, so I wonder if this was the big room that ran those other things that we found. Long pipe. I'm not finding any dates. Geez, that's kind of a sloppy weld. But looks like it held. The shell is just broken on it. Wow. It's a nice sporty car to be sitting back here. Oh, look at that old classic. Cadillac? Sure looks like a caddy. Chevelle? I don't know. Glass is still good in it. Man, chains are going crazy today. There's another foundation. Something here. Another foundation. Somebody cleared out and made this their little hangout spot, it looks like. It's a big building of some sort. Alright. We were getting into a populated area. Didn't want to step on anybody's toes, but walk back through this big building that once was and see what's on the other side of this old foundation. There's a foundation here that I bet had rails going to it. Whatever building this was, it was a big one. I'm not seeing any signs of any railroad ties or plates. This foundation we haven't seen yet. Giant uprooted trees here. Wonder if it uprooted any history down there. These roots wasn't very deep. That explains why it was uprooted. Paper thin. Nothing to go down and hold itself to the ground. Ah, dang man. I'm really starting to sweat here. Okay, we're inside of a foundation that has another foundation. Be nice to find some old coins or something here. And really there's like 3 different levels to this foundation. You got a level there, and there's a foundation, and there's another foundation that is to that foundation. Then over there, you got another foundation that's right next to this foundation, but it doesn't seem like it's all ground level. It just kind of stair steps itself up. Here's some old lumber. This backpack keeps getting caught on stuff, and I gotta fight myself through it. So if there's some heavy breathing, like, you know why. Okay. I can see daylight through that foundation. But it's still hollow. It's like an old boiler room of some sort. I can find a way to get up on top of this foundation. Well, there's my book bag. Don't worry about that. There's a pipe that led down to that basement area. There's another hole. And here's a big square hole. That right there kind of ramps down. So I don't know what this was. Very interesting. Look at that, somebody made some stairs. Okay, I'm gonna look on the GPS here and see where I'm at now. Should be close to that New York Central building. Man, they tore down one of the very last big standing buildings that was right here in this green area. Just last summer it was standing. That is crazy. Dang. I was hoping to get another good view of that. Maybe find an entry point and get in and check it out, but another piece of the history is gone. Now they just have stacks of brick, block, and stone. Not for sure what this area was that I was standing in here, or that I'm standing in now. But this is where all the big major shops was at. They'd work on the locomotives and train cars here. And it was a big forest, so this was one of the biggest mechanic areas for the railroad companies was here in this town. Bale Fountain, Ohio. I think I see another foundation over here. So I can find that building that was just torn down. And this was right across from it. And in that book, it'll tell me should tell me what this foundation was here. What was its purpose? This one had a steel angle iron across it. There's old railroad ties. Wow. So I wonder if there was a bridge that went across here at some point or something. Let's walk up here and see if I can find any nails. Looks like it's about 40 foot long. Nope, there wasn't any railroad ties up there. Lumber to what once stood as a building. Oh man, this brush is thick. Okay, so this is about a 8 foot, 10 foot wide. Here's an old railroad tie. This is about an 8 foot, 10 foot wide foundation, about 40 foot long. There's a crawl space under this block. Here's an old steel pipe that came out of it. Nope. It's just a tall foundation. It must have been a downspout. There's a lot of concrete chunks here, for sure. That went to this. Weird grass lawn. It's all concrete here. And we're back into the thick brush. I'll come back to you when I find something interesting. Let me see. There's a ramp right there. I'm going to get to it. Holding one phone in the one hand and propping myself up and crawling with the other. Huh. Just trying to visualize and put together the surrounding of all this here. There's the ramp. Starting here. Going all the way back here. I'm not finding very many railroad ties. Here's another foundation. That was another building of some sort. Standing up feels good. I wanted to get to the other side of that ramp. Well, this here's the other side of that ramp. It had some brick around it, which was a building of some sort. And it looked like the foundation of the building around the ramp was 20 by 24-ish, something like that. Not very big, but not all the buildings back here were big. There's an old concrete stake. Oink. The age of these trees are not very old, so there's got to be some concrete that we're walking on right now. An old railroad tie. It might be. Whew. Here's the foundation. I don't know why this block is sitting here for. Another air tank thing of some sort. Well, they didn't have much air in. I don't know if their brakes ran off air, if they were manuals or what. So Bessie got some old nails, but no faded nails. I don't think I've ever seen this part of this area. I got an old foundation over here. That one's pretty deep. And another foundation over there. We'll check this one out first. Another one there. I'll look in the book here and show you the major or the big shops. How many there was, because there was a buttload of them. That railroad tie was not used as a railroad tie, because I don't see any dents. Oh, maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't. But maybe it was. Oh, nope. She's a heavy one. Foundation has got tile there. There was a bridge here. Not seeing any dated nail on that one. Just look at the surrounding ones. Just the different dips, flat areas, different foundations. Look back, got a hold of another big branch. Not sure what the heck that is. Whatever is over there is all black. But we'll bounce our way over there after checking out some foundations, seeing if there's anything interesting. Another pipe. This one had a lot of pipes in it. A lot. I don't know if this is wood here. Maybe this was an old fire room. Yeah, a lot of pipe sense that ran into it. I'm not so sure about that one. All that black was a big old fat tree. Holy cow, that thing was huge. And in its roots has got some old lumber. And slate. And coal. Man, look at the root system on that thing. That thing's 30 foot wide. I wonder what this little canal was here. Come on, bring me up some old coins. Let me find some history. Something with a date on it. Oh, this might have been a pile of trash. Oh, nice. There was a rail here. At one point, as you can see, they all go in single file. It's actually wider than a regular railroad tie. Or longer, I mean. Over there once stood a telephone pole. Right next to all these here. Nice to find a daggum dated nail. There was one, and then over there was another one. So you have two rails side by side. And I'm heading back to where we came from because I think I passed the New York Central building that I wanted to check out. Which will lead me to some more, hopefully, evidence of some railroad ties. It still has the plate in it. And the railroad, oh yes! Look at that. Looks like a 1930. Let me pull that out real quick. Right here. 1930. Found it just off of this plate here. Right here's the old hole where it was at, which is
right in the center of this railroad tie. Not quite in the center, between where there would be a plate there and that plate there, which right here would be about center, but it gives you a ballpark idea on where to look. But you only find them in this right here. Old cracked seaweed or mossy railroad ties, and the part that sucks about them is in the center of every railroad tie. It's usually split wide open. So right here should be another one. Ish. But that's the hard part about this game, is trying to find the railroad tie that would still be salvageable and easy enough to find them. Otherwise, you'll be using a metal detector. Well, found one so far. As you can see, you can tell where the railroad ties were at, but they're covered with dirt and debris. So if you don't know exactly where you're looking, you may never find it. Too much digging for that, but that railroad went this way, and there's another one right here beside it, and then over there's a third one. I wanted to go back to that telephone pole and see if I couldn't find a dated nail in it. Do you remember how I showed you, I'll show you again, how there were 5, 6 rails coming out of the New York Central building and then all coming into one? I think this right here is the point where it came into one, because there was a railroad tie. I'm in the middle of a railroad tie. That there was a railroad tie, and those railroad ties are maybe, they're the normal size railroad ties. These here are railroad ties that connected to another railroad before it came into one. So if I keep following this center one here, it should lead me straight to just one railroad tie. And right there's my telephone pole. I'm gonna go check out. Before we go check out that telephone pole, this is about where I'm at. I'm thinking I'm right in this area right here. I'm heading that way right now, and all these railroad ties are connecting right in front of me. So about another 30, 40 yards that way should be the single railroad, if I had to guess. Figure I'd just show you that real quick, because these railroad ties are a lot longer here. Yeah, see, these are a lot longer. And it connected all of these into one. And here's that telephone pole. Oh, cool. Had an old box with it. Now, there's about 4 foot of it out of the ground, so the dated nail, actually it would probably be on the other side, is eye level with you in the center of that pole. Which, nope, it's probably split. It's laying on the other side of the ground, I bet. Because this box, no fuses inside. Dayton, Ohio. Had the old glass on it, didn't it? Pretty cool. There's a lot of houses right over there. But, ouch. Dang, that stick flipped me and got me right in the eyeball. Okay. Back to what I was doing before I was so rudely interrupted. Following this railroad tie back to the New York Central building. Well, I found a pretty open area. And it's still got, looks like there's a doe here playing with these old bolts they used for bridges. Got threads inside of them here. This way is the New York Central building, I believe. But it's a lot nicer to walk in this area because I can stand up at least. I'm not bent over having this 20-pound bag holding me down. It's kind of open, I guess. This here is a big opened area, so it tells me there was a huge building here at one point. I know they didn't tear that building down. Not the New York Central building anyway. There's a foundation of some sort here. Oh shoot. Well, find myself back, got that daggone whatchamacallit. I found me another ramp. Didn't see this one when we passed by. Oh, maybe so. It led to that 10-foot, 12-foot wide steel angle iron building. Man, I bet this old telephone pole could tell you some stories. Jeez, that thing had posts coming off of it every direction. I don't see any old tags on it. Another foundation here. I think we're awful close to the New York Central building now. Oh, there's a fence there. This one I think had a basement to it. Oh, I wish I had my daggum flashlight. Not seeing any other entry points, but man, this is a pretty big foundation here. We're gonna get to the New York Central building. I'm gonna open up that book and find out what foundation this is, because this thing is huge. There's a hole over there. I mean, this thing is huge. There's a hole to an animal. Home to an animal now. Big pile of rubble. We're almost to the other side now. Well, holy cow. This is the old roundhouse. At the beginning of the video, this is the foundation that I followed. I still can't believe they filled that in. Look at that, man. That thing goes all the way around here. Yeah. See that foundation? Just keeps curving all the way around. This is the old lumber that this building used to be. Did they get a nail? No. Different looking nail, that's for sure though. Ah, so sad. Man. It's crazy. They filled it all in. Man. We're railroad tying concrete. That's pretty cool. Talk about reinforcement. They were smart back in the day when they did theirs because they used wire. That wire should be halfway pulled up at least, though. So they didn't pull their wire up very well, but at least they reinforced it. This is the edge of the last bit of the roundhouse. Still a bunch of lumber here. It's an old railroad tie. It'd be about impossible to find a dated nail on a railroad tie like that. See, that foundation was right there. It curved up through here. That was it. They filled it in. Oh, what we got here? Got a big hole over here of some sort. Has some railroad ties around it. Huh. That's interesting. Look how far down below the dirt railroad tie is. If I get my hammer out and start digging it. Stick. Oh, it's a tunnel. Oh man, it's a tunnel. I found a tunnel. Holy cow. The tunnel was right next to the roundhouse. I'm coming back with my flashlight for this one. There's a tunnel under here. And it goes that way. Huh. The roundhouse was right here. New York Central Building is over there. Oh man. Oh, I wish I had my daggone flashlight now. Dang it, man. It's aggravating I didn't bring it. Normally it's in my bag. The time I don't have it in my bag is the time I need it. A lot of old railroad ties to check around for dated nails, though. You know, these broken ones, you just get lucky. There should be one right around in this area. Maybe it fell into this dirt, but I'm not feeling nothing metal-wise, except for this. Telephone pole. Some sort. That's not a railroad tie. And if it is, it's split right in half where there would be a nail. There's a railroad tie, but it's not in the greatest shape either. Nail should be right in this area. Like I said, it'd be about impossible to find one in a railroad tie in that condition. But you know what? That tunnel was over there and it's going that way. And there was railroad ties all through here, because this over here is the New York Central Building. Let's go check the front of this thing out. We are at the New York Central Building here. Doesn't say how many tracks. 2 tracks. what that sign says. Very good condition still. I'd like to take a tour inside that building. Still got the glass and wire hooked up to it. So we're here in front of the New York Central building now, and this is the side that had the 5 rails coming out of it. So let's pull out the book and check it out. This one isn't it, but where we were at, where all them big foundations and stuff was, that was Florence Street. And this is a building that they tore down now, but these are all rails. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 on that side. Look at all these rails they had. Here's the roundhouse. All the different rails that went to it. And we walked on this one. I think this is the one we found that was covered in concrete. We're over here. I think it was this one. And this right here is where we're at, I believe. Let's see if I can find on another page. Something else that I always go to is over here. I'm in this yard here a lot. This right here is the main line. It's still there. And then in the woods is this many rails that cross. And there's a bridge that went under here to a creek that I go to all the time. That's the map of the east yard. I guess this here's the building. I thought the building that had the 5 coming out of it was this one. So I misinterpreted that, but there's the roundhouse, which is right there. And that's got the tunnel on it. And without having the tunnel on it, it tells me that maybe that was where the turntable was at. So when I go get my flashlight and I go check that out, I'm going to figure out what's down there. There's just a lot of interesting things in this book. A lot of history. A lot of detailed history. First building north of the roundhouse. This is the building they tore down, which was, I believe, this building here. This is one where all the foundations are at. You have a water machine shop. This is in the woods over there. And I think we're right here. Well, let's go continue this adventure. Here's the back side of it. All this back here was just rails. After rails, after rails, after rails. The roundhouse is right here. One of them. We had 2 of them. Just on the back side of that there, another old foundation, of course. There were so many shops and stuff here, so it's hard to determine on which one was what, and without an exact map. And that was a long one there. And a hole in the ground. That's kind of random. Sounds like it's sitting on some hollow concrete. A little vibration under that. See if there's any railroad ties over here. before we head on towards the main line, see if there's any trains. It's been kind of quiet now. Well, they tried using plywood to cover this up. I just found a steel door. Goes way down there, listen. And I bet it's a tunnel that goes to that right there. Tried to outsmart me. They say there's still tunnels through this town, so I may have found one here. This one has a ladder. And it smells like a skunk. It's down there. I hear a train. Let's see if we can get to it in time. I found this old tag, but there's a train coming. I'll come back with my flashlight and figure out what's down in that tunnel and that other one over there at the roundhouse area. I got a lot of woods to cut through to get to this train. Let's get one on our leg, shall we? Yeah. Such a workout being away sometimes, going to all these different areas. Always letting curiosity take the best of me. See, all these, this woods right here was just filled with rails. We'll find some on the way crossing here, I'm sure. You can see there's that old telephone pole, but looks like a tree. Oh, look at that. The foundation. Alright. Oh. This right here. But there's a rail that went right across there. Right next to it, there should be another one that goes right there. There's that trench. A trench. I'm not going the same way I came out, or I started off with. Man, I need to get my quad back here. I know there's some quad trails back here. Oh, that's a steep hill. Oh, look at that. This tells you there's something there. Obviously. But at least there's a trail here. Jeez, that helps me get through this woods quicker because we are in a thick woods. Oh yeah, we're way ahead of him. He's just now making it into town. We'll find a good position. This right here's the main line. 140. Oh, we're down further than I thought. We're down way further than I thought. So all that on that side was nothing but a buttload of rails and workshops and roundhouse. This side had a New York Central that went this way, just about a block or two over. Followed a road, and then up here it crossed over these two rails and headed towards Indian Lake. Went through Huntsville. All that fun jazz. Now he's coming into town, so he's going pretty slow. We'll go up here to this stopping point and wait for him here. He'll be coming around that corner when he comes at some point. probably don't want to piss too much out because it might flood the tracks. Jeez. I don't think I've ever seen it that congested. We got tiles that run underneath there to the other side there. I bet after a heavy rain, it floods right here. It's got a ways to get up to the top, but early spring it'll happen. Okay, he's gonna have one more long blow, and that'll be his last blow before he will show. Yep. I hear the axles, the wheels squealing going around the curve over there. Which tells me he's coming up to the shortest street in America. And now, here he comes. Nice and slow though, I can tell. Oh boy, sounds like a steam thresher coming up this hill. Oh, he really picked up speed now. Oh boy, sounds like a steam thresher coming up this hill. Oh, he really picked up speed now. Well, I'm gonna go park my truck another spot and go check out some more history there. I got a few things I gotta pick up as well over there that I've spotted over the time and just didn't have the tools to get it. So let's go. Right on the other side of that hill there is our rails. I'll park right here. This next part that I had to get involved bringing my DeWalt screw gun. I don't see any signal lights on down there, so there won't be any trains coming for a minute anyway. All this right here was all railroad tracks. That whole woods right there. Over there was the roundhouse and all the workshops. And then over here was the east train yard. And like I said earlier about New York Central crossed underneath this bridge. And I'll take you up here to where it went parallel with 33 here going that way. Rail guides, they got a lot of information on there that you can find out about old abandoned rails. I haven't found any uploaded apps or anything that leads me to finding newer old rails. Like if I went to my abandoned part of the rail guide, it wouldn't show me all them rails that was in the woods there. Like right here, there was a rail that went right through here as well. It's actually right here. And then over here was one. Sometimes you can find a railroad tie. Yeah, this one here, yep. This right here is a railroad tie. Thought about coming back here with a shovel a couple times, seeing if I couldn't dig it down. Okay, that's the end of it. So, the center. It's got a nail. Nope. But even if it did, I mean, it's not in the greatest condition to still be holding one because it's split right down the middle where there should be one. But it just goes to show how many hidden. See, here's another railroad tie. How many tracks used to run through this area. So you had a rail here. Here's the end of it. And you had a rail over here. And you had all those rails there. And on the other side of that rail was another rail. But the New York Central, according to my map, came about right on the other side of that building there. It actually went through the building. Because obviously the railroad track was there before that building was. And then it crossed under this bridge. I don't know if that bridge was there, or I'm sure not, but there's evidence of an old bridge that used to be for the railroad to go over. So we'll go over there and check it out real quick. Getting ready to do some rail repairs here, it looks like. I've been laying there for a little while, but there's over here there was railroad track here, railroad track here, railroad track. There's some old railroad ties. I've already checked those for dated nails, I believe. But some places where I thought I've already checked, I came back and checked them again and boom, found a nail. But now that all the leaves and everything's fallen down, it exposes the old railroad ties even more. Yeah, I thought there was a spot here where there was a railroad tie that was coming across. Okay, so the New York Central came across this building here, and about right in here is where it came across. But up here, you'll see the old post that used to brace and hold up the bridge is still there. We're almost there. This is the old post. It went right here, across here, and then turned and went parallel with 33 here. So real quick, since that bridge went there, I'll show you the path that it went. We're going to walk the exact-ish. And this rail guide, I mean, it's pretty spot on with how it laid, because I've went and used that rail guide for some other abandoned rails that are on the other side of Bell Fountain, and I found railroad ties straight in the ground here. See these here? There was a rail that went right here. All these railroad ties, these are fresh here, so I've never even checked these. I'll come back and check these for some nails. See if there was a nail on this one, it would be here or here. They just buried all this old railroad ties here. Anywho, so that right there is where that post is at. Came across here. Obviously, there's a little bit of change up on how the layout was because of the bridge and things they put in there. But check this out. There's railroad ties. Old railroad ties. And that's just a nail. Must be part of the bridge. Those are part of the bridge, but that's 33 there. And then went right through these bushes here. Down along this way here. Now, hang on a second, because down here, that's some tight brush, because I walked in there the first time I've explored the rail guide on this abandoned New York Central. So the best way I found to get in is right here. Well, maybe not. There's a spot down here where I got on the other side of that fence, because the rail went right here. Or maybe I just hopped the daggum thing. Yep, that was easy enough. So that's 33. If I'm walking parallel, heading this way, okay? We just came from that way. And if we're heading this way, where the railroad track used to be, there's an old railroad tie. Old railroad tie. I think it went up over this here, but once again, another railroad tie. So there's evidence that shows that there was an old rail. The New York Central went right across here. And on the other side of this brush pile, which I don't need to hop a fence because there's an opening right here. There's an old signal light foundation. So that rail was right along here. There's an old telephone pole that would have carried the power, because there ain't no telephone poles down this side anymore. Went along right here. And how I know that is because on the other side of this hill here, there is actually a post that once held the bridge of some sort. Surely this road wasn't here, maybe it was, I don't know. But there's posts. You see here. It should be right along in here somewhere. We're up this way a little more. You get the point. There's old bridge post that was right here that went straight along this way. And along 33, you can see how flat the land was that it was for the railroad. Some posts are around here somewhere. I thought they were right here. They had to be right here because I came out in a bunch of brush. I had the map up and I was walking the old abandoned where it said it was at. Yeah, see how kind of flat it gets right here? Oh, here we are. I should have walked from up here. Old railroad tie. There isn't a dated nail, but there's a railroad tie and here's a railroad tie. And it shows the rail went that way. Don't see a dated nail on that one either. Isn't that crazy? Look, I thought that was the coolest thing. There's so much history here. Like, over here is the east train yard that I showed you in a book earlier. We'll go check that out here in a minute, but I got some things I got to do here. Found some old license plates that I want to add to my collection. Okay, that way would be the east yard right here. That's the east yard. There's a foundation and a building of some sort right here. And then right here is a foundation. And over here, I'm going to be facing that way to show you a better view of what the map and the book shows. So let me get over here, sit down here on this foundation, and I'll show you. I'm not for sure what this was, and maybe it is in the map somewhere, but it's an older foundation as well. Okay, this is the East Stockyard Road. We are roughly back here, where these right here are the main line, and then all this right here is directly in front of me over here. Okay. Now we're going to look at this building right here. Not the building, because the building's down apparently, but I know where the foundation that held this water tank is, and this right here, that foundation still has those wood forms that are still up and down. And then the road, which is still here, it's right here. That road that crosses right there is Stockyard Road. Okay? Now, see the shape of this building here? And the rails that went parallel with it. The foundation. Concentrate on the foundation. Get a good look at that foundation. Now, that foundation is right over here on the other side of these bushes. This area right here would be the face of that building. This right here would be the side of it. The foundation. You're looking at the left side of it. And that's the rail that went parallel with it. That's the rail. This is the front left corner. So we were looking at it this way, and there's that wall. Down that wall, let me get a better look at, a better view of it. But this right here is the whole building right here. Foundation and everything is all still here, but I wanted to show you this wall. See this? They use these wood posts to hold their foundation up, and they are still there. All the way down. Hunky Lake is back here, which there's a house back here now, so they have issues of people going back here and walking back here, but I still have yet to have somebody come say something to me. See that foundation, that wall is still going. It was a really big building. And it led to nothing but a bunch of rails back here. This area back here is where I found a lot of dated nails. Actually, I think my oldest one I found is back here. It's 1912. Foundation just keeps going. There's a big building. Even underneath this driveway here, over here's the building where it was at. This right here is where it stops. So I mean, it's 50 yards, 60 yards long. But all this right here was railroad tracks. And then back here in this woods here, buttload of railroad tracks. Railroad after railroad after railroad. I found some railroad ties that there was a railroad track here. And how I know that is I found some exposed through the grass. And I found a couple nails in them actually, but they were exposed in the grass. And I followed them and they were parallel. So there's probably 2 or 3 rails right in here. And then this whole area back here, all the way up to Honky Lake, was railroads. I think it's up here in the shorter grass. The electric fence. Well, that sounds like a good time. See here. Oh, see right here. There's an old railroad tie. And then here's another one. So that railroad tie went this way. And there's another one and another one. This whole yard here is filled with railroad ties. And they're all going parallel. See if I can find one. Yep, right here. This right here is a railroad tie. You can just follow them. You can see exactly where they're at. One there. They just go. And they go. And they go and they go and they go. This right here was all stockyard. Isn't that crazy? Finding this old book kind of gave me a better vision on where things was at, how things was laid out. I've kind of figured it out just from adventuring on my own and visualizing what I was able of. And over here, underneath all this brush here, there was like 3 rows or 3 rails through there. Signal light still ain't on yet. But there's old railroad ties I found in here. It's a pain in the butt to walk through all that, but I parked my truck all the way down there at the other end. And there was the water, let's see here, that water tower foundation is like right across here somewhere. See the foundation, the building's over here. Yeah, the water tower would be right around this area here, but in that wooded area. We started off way down that way. Over there was the foundation. Over this area here was the water tank. This here is Honky Lake. There's a creek that goes over here, but there's a bridge that goes underneath all this right here over to Honky Lake. Bunch of old railroad ties there for a bridge of some sort. This is Honky Lake. They claim that this is how they filled the steam threshers and things. (1917). They said you could find guns and stolen cars, all kinds of stuff in here that people's just throughout the days hidden and thrown in here. I'd like to take a magnet fishing day and come over here and do this. There's where the water tank foundation was. It's the dam that goes down to the creek. This foundation. It's got a ladder that goes down to it. You know what? I'm gonna go up here and introduce myself to these folks. I don't know if they're home or not, but there's a lot of no trespassing, keep out signs around here. I'm just gonna ask for permission if I could explore in their woods, or I don't know even if it's their woods, but where the old yard used to be, and maybe do some magnet fishing here. This is the first time I ever seen this much of it. I came out I've walked the bridge through the creek and came out here because I wanted, like, it sounded like a waterfall when I first found that bridge, and I wanted to check it out, and then it led me to come out to that there. So I'm gonna go up here and speak a few words, and hopefully they're nice folks and let me check this out. It just make me feel at ease if I had permission first. But I'm gonna pull out the book and show them the book and kind of what I'm doing. Not doing anything wrong, really, just exploring and checking things out. Well, unfortunately, everybody was home, and it looked like they were kind of not home much. We had a bunch of cats running around there, and there wasn't any. Well, here's some fresh tread. So, I don't know. I would like to ask permission for them if I could come over here, because I'll take a magnet detector. I'll take a metal detector, find a rail, and walk the center of the rail and eyeball it. There's some dated nails underneath this yard. Yeah, I'll tell you what, it is a beautiful day. But I don't know how much more of this adventuring I'm going to go on with, but at the same time, there was something else I wanted to get into today about trains. I wanted to... Oh, I hear a train coming now. Let's get it. Before the train gets here, now we have a sky view. Those were the main. There were a couple rails in the picture that was over there. Here is a line under this railroad ties. Next to that rail, and a bunch of rails up that way. And then Honky Lakes right over there. I don't see any signal lights on, but I'm pretty sure I heard a horn. That right there was where the foundation was at, off to the left there. I stand corrected. Here comes an engine. Down behind me goes the rails. Oh, he's got some good speed. Cow, that thing is leaning pretty bad. Gee whiz. That one box don't look like it's gonna make it to its destination. That one right there. It's got a hard lean to the right. Whoo-wee. Watch it lose it. Watch it fall over on that curve way down yonder there. I think I'm gonna walk us back here. There's some pretty cool areas I found back here that we can go explore that a little bit too. Here, I'll show you on this side here. This is where I started finding some of the old railroad ties that let me know. Told me that there's 2 rails that go through here, and there's another one that goes right parallel with all these railroad ties that are stacked. Oink. one that I threw out, so I didn't forget it and I knew where it was at to get the nail out of it. I see there's a bunch of old railroad ties in there. That's where they were all at. Both the signal lights are on and they're red. So it tells me there's going to be another train coming from that way there. Heading west. All those railroad ties you see there, those are all in filed line where there was a rail that went right along here as well. And then this here's the bridge, the 1942 bridge that apparently went and crossed over to 1917 bridge. The Honky Lake. So Honky Lake feeds into this creek here. Oh, signal lights are off. Maybe there's a train coming from this way now. We'll see. There won't be until these lights, one of these lights will be green. If so. Alright, so there's some railroad ties. We're going to cross over to the right side of them. Right through here is an old railroad that went along straight where that brown building is down yonder there. I found, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 dated nails within this area here. I found quite a bit on this side of this side of town. The other side of town has got a lot of, when I first started learning about the dated nails, there's a whole bunch of railroad ties there. But when I first started learning about the dated nails, it was frosty and it was just really hard to find them, and I was just learning, so I was still green at where to look for them and what to look for. Yep, right here was a rail right underneath that thing there. Another one here. Another one here. And here. And here. And here. Which is where this one stopped. They usually park things here. The grinder, the Perry thing, I found it once. See, I've checked these 100 times, but I always feel like I've forgotten one where I was moving too quick or I was too impatient. Or my neck was hurting just from looking down the whole time. All through that wood through there, that was just amazes me. But back in the day, none of these trees was here, and this was all a working yard. There's a pile of old ties that I looked through the best I could, but there's dead trees and all kinds of stuff mixed in with them. I've walked through this weeds of mess the best I could, and on my hands and knees looking for dated nails as well. I've had a look. I found a few of them in there, but see, these here are all starting to cover. And this route just goes on and on. Now, across over here where those railroad ties are at, I said there was a railroad that went right parallel with it, right along here. There's one that went beside it, through all this power stuff here, right underneath this brown building. I'll show you. I found some really old telephone poles up there in that big thicket of stuff. So if we go parallel with this thing here, coming out the other side, we're parallel with it. I keep thinking I hear another engine. There's railroad ties. Right there. So it tells me that all these railroad ties that used to be here are still here. They're just buried. forgotten. I wish I had some equipment. I'll clean it up and figure out where these daggum rails led to, where they stopped at. I know it was just a train yard, but yeah. I don't know if I want to walk all the way back here, man. This is a lot of walking back here. But I'll just end this. I'm going to end the adventure right here. Maybe I'll find something else to get into. I don't know. Before I put all these clips together. I keep thinking I hear an engine. Sounds like one is echoing through town, but I'm not hearing any horns. Sometimes it takes a minute to hear a horn. Yeah, it's a long ways walk back to my truck, but I'll get there sometime today, hopefully. Well, if you watched this far, I hope you've enjoyed the video, and sorry I didn't get into some of the other buildings that I wanted to. I didn't realize they tore one of them down a couple months ago, and there's a few other places that I wanted to get to, but there's just not enough time in the day, and I'm limited on time as always. So, until next time, take it easy.